Have you ever looked at someone you love and suddenly felt like you didn't recognize them anymore? Their eyes, their voice, their presence, it's all familiar, but there's something hollow about it. That kind of shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, gradually, and worst of all, while you're still holding on. Today, we're diving into a topic that many people shy away from. Not because it's too complex, but because it's too real. The early signs of emotional betrayal. Specifically, how a woman who cheats often leaves a trail long before the truth surfaces. This isn't just about infidelity. It's about understanding emotional detachment, recognizing disconnection, and preserving your sense of self before the fallout. Let's start with the most subtle but deadly phase, the slow fade. This is where love doesn't die with a bang, but with a whisper. She's still there, physically but emotionally. Her presence starts fading. You notice it when small rituals disappear. No more morning messages, less laughter at your jokes. The hugs become brief. The kisses feel routine. This isn't about dramatizing every bad day. Life gets busy, people get stressed, but emotional consistency is different. When someone truly values you, even in their chaos, they find small ways to stay connected. When those disappear, what's often entering the scene is emotional redirection. Her attention, once yours, is now somewhere else. Maybe it's work, maybe it's a new friend, maybe it's a fantasy of being free again. Psychologically, this is what we call the displacement phase. A person begins seeking emotional validation outside the primary relationship, even if they don't realize it consciously. The danger here? You start feeling like a roommate, not a partner. You feel the love slipping through your fingers, but you can't find the words to prove it yet. Communication used to be your bridge. Now it's a wall. She answers questions but doesn't engage. Conversations become logistical, not emotional. What time will you be home? Replaces. How was your day? This isn't accidental. When someone emotionally detaches, they instinctively ration their energy. They avoid vulnerability because it threatens the new narrative they're building in their head, one where they're distant, dissatisfied, or evolving beyond the relationship. Let me tell you about Marcus, a client I worked with. He was with his girlfriend for 3 years. The first 2 were filled with joy, spontaneity, and warmth. But in the last 6 months, something changed. She was polite but cold, attentive but distant. He told himself it was work, stress, but his gut knew better. Eventually, she admitted she had been reconnecting with an ex, emotionally, for months. They hadn't crossed physical lines yet. But the emotional affair had already created a void in their relationship that he couldn't fill anymore. This stage teaches a brutal truth. Silence can be louder than shouting, and sometimes silence is the scream of someone emotionally gone. You might assume that cheating is about sex, but often it's about the energy behind it. Intimacy, real intimacy, is emotional. It's about safety, trust, presence. So when that energy shifts, it doesn't always look like less sex. Sometimes it looks like more, just different. A woman who's emotionally checked out may avoid intimacy altogether, or she may use it as a cover performing affection to avoid suspicion. In both cases, the connection feels mechanical. One man told me, "We were having more sex than ever, but I felt more alone than I did when we weren't intimate." That's the paradox. Intimacy without emotional truth is emptier than abstinence. Psychologists refer to this as substitution behavior. The act remains, but the meaning is replaced. When intimacy feels like acting, it's a sign something real is missing. Pay attention. Have you ever been yelled at for forgetting to text back, and it turned into a lecture about how you never care? That's emotional displacement. It's when someone channels internal guilt, dissatisfaction, or fear into unrelated arguments. People who are emotionally conflicted, especially if they're hiding something, often pick fights to create distance. It's easier to villainize you than admit they're betraying the bond. That way, the cheating isn't cheating, it's justified. These fights serve a purpose. They create space. They make you the problem, which helps them sleep at night. But don't take the bait. De-escalate. Observe. And know that sometimes the argument is never about what it appears to be. Planning a future together is one of the most bonding parts of any relationship. When that stops or becomes vague, it's usually not a coincidence. A woman who's emotionally disengaging stops saying we. She starts saying I. Let me illustrate this with David and Lena. They used to talk about moving to another city, buying a place near the coast. But one day, Lena started saying things like, I've always wanted to live in a big city, or maybe I need a solo trip to find myself. David felt like a passenger being quietly dropped off before the destination. A future that once had two names, now only had one. When someone stops envisioning a future with you, it's usually because they're imagining one without you. That's not fear. That's preparation. The psychology of emotional exit, vertical bar, 4 3 o'clock minus 4 8 o'clock. Why do people cheat? Not always because they want something new, but because they feel unseen, unheard, or stuck in cycles they can't escape. Cheating becomes an escape hatch, a reset button. That doesn't make it right, but it explains the why behind the what. Emotional disconnection is often mutual long before one person breaks the trust. That's why both awareness and communication are essential. You can't fix what you won't admit is broken. If this video is hitting close to home, don't panic. Don't beg, don't threaten, breathe, step back, observe. The most powerful thing you can do isn't to argue or prove your worth. It's to see clearly, to honor your boundaries, to ask the hard question, is this still a space where love lives? Sometimes relationships can heal. Other times, the healing begins when you walk away. You deserve connection that's mutual. Presence that's real. A partner who chooses you with clarity, not obligation. If something feels off, trust your instincts. They're not insecurity, they're intuition. Comment clarity if this hit home for you. Like, share, and subscribe if you want more content about relationships, self-worth, and emotional growth. Stay grounded. And remember, silence is never just silence. Sometimes it's the sound of love slipping away.